Welcome aboard the news review segment on the AM show. It's Friday, and hopefully our energy can rub off you. But in the studio with Ben and I this morning is Andrew Appiah-Dankwa, spokesperson for the Movement for Change. And along the line, when our other guests join us, we'll introduce them to you. Appiah-Dankwa, welcome to the program.
Yeah, thank you.
How is it going? Friday? Easy Friday?
Very, very easy Friday.
Okay. Have you seen Babatunde though yet?
Yeah. That's my official name today.
Babatunde.
Yeah, so don't call me Ben. Call me Babatunde.
Baba.
I started the show by introducing. Yeah.
And today.
Yes.
Hey, you know easy.
Or make an add Taiwo to one.
Easy.
Make an add Taiwo.
Right.
Anyway, that reminds me of Kwame Nkrumah Botsio.
Yeah.
Kobash. I remember the name.
Oh, no, you should never forget the name. Osajifo Kobash.
Osajifo Kobash. Anyway, I guess we'll see to you for your quick thoughts for us this morning.
Yeah, so let me wish your lovely viewers good morning. Wish the two of you a good morning. Always a pleasure to be on your set and to be in your company. Today, what has been going through my mind, and it's been going through my mind since yesterday after I had reports, I watched a video of an honorable member of parliament admonishing the members of his party to more or less aid other members when they are in fight or when they are in some form of battle with other Ghanaians who just happen to share a different view about how governance ought to be done. For me, it brings in sharp focus why we have leaders in the first place and why our leaders must be and stay fidel to the reason, the purpose, the principles, aspirations, and values of the people they are meant to lead. I think it is important in the light of that we remind ourselves of why we even took upon ourselves this constitution in the first place. And it's very necessary to, as in just in the first paragraph of the preamble, this is said, we the people of Ghana, in exercise of our natural and inalienable right to establish a framework of government which shall secure for ourselves and prosperity, the blessings of liberty, equality of opportunity, and prosperity, and then goes on to then outline the principles that underpins our constitution. And one of them is in the spirit of friendship. Now, if you also appreciate the architecture of the state of Ghana, the fact that Ghana is essentially an amalgamation of different countries, different cultures, different people, but who have managed under, especially with the vision and leadership of our first president, to amalgamate into one powerful country. Then people will lead, people who took an oath to be faithful to Ghana, essentially to be faithful to those principles, those values, and those ideals, must reflect these ideals, must reflect the desire to foster and enhance the unity of this country, not to divide us. We may have different views about life, and rightly so. We took upon ourselves, we deliberately took upon ourselves this structure, this system, this framework, because we believe that that's the best system that can secure for ourselves our right to life, our right to liberty, and our right to pursue our own happiness.
Right.
So in the spirit of these principles, the people who lead us should reflect these values, and they should take steps in whatever they do, in their language, in their behaviors, in their action. They should take steps that will enhance this unity as against destroying it. They should take steps that will guarantee and secure and entrench this framework, because that's the only way in which we can secure for ourselves the purpose of the Constitution. So in the light of that, I condemn in no certain terms, as in the language of the Honorable MP, I condemn the kind of spirit, the kind of values which they show. These are values that do not represent our values. Our values are one that promotes unity, promotes respect for different view, and believe that in the resort to disagreement, we must have recourse to the law, not to what's called our individual passions. And so that's my thought for the day. We need to build this country and build a very strong nation.
That's something to ponder on. Yeah. But let's usher in Kwame Nkrumah Botsio into the conversation. Good morning.
Good morning.
Especially Osajifo Kobash.
I thought you had forgot.
We shall never forget.
You mentioned it right before you came.
Yeah, right before.
We shall never forget.
Lawyer Biggie.
I wanted to say that it wouldn't be Kwame Nkrumah without your notebook.
Yes.
I should get one like that. I keep forgetting things these days. But
I'll get
talk
you
to
one.
us about. Yes, thank you. What's on your mind this morning?
You know what's on my mind is the people of Ho. I've been following that story for some time now, and it really breaks my heart. It really breaks my heart. His Excellency, the President, is doing a good job. He's doing a very, very good job so far. He shouldn't forget the people of Ho. The water shortage. You know, in Ghana, a problem anywhere is a problem everywhere.
Yeah.
And we all know, I mean, the days back where a yellow gallon was named after a certain former president. I wouldn't want to go into details. Apparently, the water system at Ho was built for 5,000, population of 5,000. Now the population is 250,000. Due to grow to 500,000 very soon. And I saw some figures being bandied around, I think $53 million or so to expand it. I want to plead with His Excellency to add it to his top 3 priorities so that an immediate solution can be found to the water problem. You know, when you don't have water, even when you wake up in the morning, it will even make you late for work, going to look for water, the risk of cholera and other things. That is what is on my mind.
I don't know if it's a similar thing happening in Accra, but although it's solved now, the whole of last week and beginning of this week, I didn't have water flowing through our taps.
Wow.
Somewhere between Manette and Lekma, those areas. And it was terrible. Luckily, we have a well, a borehole of a sort, so we could rely on that. But I woke up, every time I wake up, around 3:30, 4 a.m., you see people walking around with yellow, gallons trying to find water. It's not a very pleasant situation to be in. Right. Ben, quick thoughts before we get to the papers, or should we get straight to
rather some quick thoughts I'd like to get their thoughts on, since both of them are lawyers. There have been a lot of boards, committees, a few things here and there. Today I'll talk about part of them in my blunt thoughts. But the Hajj board and the fact that they feel there was some rot that they have to uncover. The Hajj fees have been reduced by, I think, 13K. But some would have wished it was more. What are your reflections on, these bits about always having some rot that happened when an erstwhile board or institution or administration was in power? I'm not saying there isn't any, but why is it that there are always these situations? And the second one, it's also a legal angle. Hollister Diayintumi, the former SIC boss, and her situation. I'm actually looking at her appointment letter from Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, dated the 18th of December, and she was supposed to take over on the first day of January 2024. If you come to Equity, you must come with clean hands. So her situation and what it brings in terms of a legal tussle. Some say, look, the right things must be done in terms of fading out these people. But at the same time, the president has the prerogative. What is your take on that? Just quick thoughts and
so
we can get into the papers.
So the first thing has to do with the Hajj board, and also there's so many other boards whose focus is to more or less justify why there was a change of government. It was essentially so to tell us, listen, they did this rot, they did this rot, and so for me, I think is the politicians always wanting to play politics when really we give them power and they're supposed to effect change. So even when we've gone through the process and they won power, instead of using that power to serve the people, we still want to play the politics. You get the picture. So as much as I believe that we must, and especially in the light of some of the fundamental principles underpinning our constitution, being probity and accountability, I think there must be a sharp difference, a divide between where we play politics and where we serve. And maybe we can help them. And we can help them by having independent bodies who can give proper accountability, so that matters that borders on probity and accountability is not left to the whims of regular politics. Right. Because usually it's essentially what happens that they tell us that this has been done negatively, this has been done negatively, and then we do not, as in nobody is eventually held accountable, really, most of the time. So yes, we all understand that it's politics, they are politicians, but we must have a clear understanding of when we play the politics and when we do the real job. And maybe I think the system must help them by creating independent, accountable institutions that will do that job, so that they can go on, if they are interested in doing their politics, they can go and do their politics, while the real job of governance is done. So that's my view on the first. On the issue of
the SIC boss, who, by the way, was earning 70,000 Ghana cedis monthly with other
84,000 dressing allowance
a year. Yes.
Charlie Jobs did this country.
Charlie.
Peche.
Well,
you can understand why. I mean, you wouldn't want to leave such.
MD, exactly. But I think you also said something about also the rising being done. I know arguments have been made that is something that you should expect. But
something we should probably look into.
Yeah, but the rising ought to be done. We know that you can what's called as abrogate a contract and employment contract either through a termination or a dismissal. They all have their incidents. Although that in terms of termination, so you see, it's something that we all expected when fresh president comes. It'll be fresh leadership. But having said that, at least there must be some consistent procedure that does not infringe the law, and that's what we should insist. Okay. But having said that, I think it ought to be expected. I'm surprised she wanted to take this as far as going to court.
The ADB MD, former ADB MD, he is singing, was
that not the same man that got into some money?
Yeah,
embezzlement issue?
He doesn't want trouble. He's resigned.
If you look at my paper on page 6, resigns. You know, coming from my brief thoughts.
You know the CPP being a party that champions women's rights. I've followed this story closely. And at a point, with the way the story was being put, it was making the MD look a bit bad.
Yeah.
But after what came out yesterday and the package that is being offered her, she's being compensated from the news reports for the rest of her tenure. Yeah. It looks as if she wasn't wrong in what she did. Of course, locking up your office and going home with the keys can be a bit overboard. But if apparently she had a 3-year contract starting from 1st January 2004, and the government is a 40% shareholder. The government is I don't know whether the government is a majority shareholder, but I know they have 40%. And I also listened to my learned senior, our own senior, who was ahead of us at the law faculty, Martin Kwebu. And he analyzed it very well, quoting cases like Adams and Tando. And he admitted that it's a 50-50 situation. It's a gray area. That was before they sat down with her. And now they've agreed that there'll be a formal handover with meetings
next week.
And everything. So I think, once again, I'm always happy when the women win. Once again, the woman has won.
I love the test of the law, but again, you look at the other side and...
like you said, it's 50-50.
Yeah.
It's 50-50. But you know, a contract is a contract.
Yeah.
You see, and it's SIC is not a political party. It's not a branch of any... It's a state institution. And His Excellency is doing a very good job. When it comes to this constitutional review and the powers of appointment and termination, I know he will do something about it to avoid this embarrassment that happens every few years. You know, you have people being dragged in the mud and then reinstated when their party comes back. And now going to the Hajj, Hajj also. You know, one thing about politics is sometimes there's a lot of exaggeration, and sometimes there's a lot of false accusation. I don't have the details per se. I've listened to a few programs where somebody even claimed that instead of 67,000, it can go as low as 30,000. Somebody claimed he went on the Hajj for
on his own, which is pretty difficult.
For 30,000, which is less than half of. So I don't know what goes into the 67,000. And I think that that is how politics is everywhere. It shouldn't be so. Ghana should set a different example. In the UK, in the US, anytime a new party comes, oh, this person did this. I think the UK Prime Minister, did he buy a suit or something for, was it £140 or something? It became a big issue, you see. So I think I agree with my brother that there should be an independent body to manage all these things.
Okay.
We, the politicians, should, our main duty is to provide the security and the conducive environment for the citizenry to grow.
Right.
We should not always have our fingers in every pie in society. And this constitutional review with our own brother, Rena Akumperiga, I mean, very astute people. I know they'll do an excellent job.
Sweetie, what do you think on this matter? I think it's either you ensure that, look, so if someone is appointed, right, regardless of the change in government, that person must finish his or her tenure, or you realize maybe we should make it such that if you are ending a political cycle, you don't make appointments that will go beyond.
Yeah.
Do you get it? There must be some solution in there because, look, we may say that, why is the woman acting this way? You know how it's done. You coming into, you knew exactly what it was. Someone had to go for you to come. But on the other end too, the legal test, does she have, like he said, it's a bit tricky, 60-40, 50-50. So it's something that must be looked at. And others are walking away. She is going to get some perks. So in the end, she's not lost. Anyway, CT.
Yeah, I side with you, Apia Dankwa, because I think that we should remove the politics from these appointment nominations, especially when it comes to state enterprises like this, you know. So that at the end of the day, nobody is tagging you as partisan and they want to move you out. Maybe before you know, she's the best person to serve in that place. Exactly. But commentary pouring in suggests that if she was doing such a good job, we would have seen a better SIC than we have.
Someone has sent a message saying that we should even state-owned enterprises that are not delivering. You know, a lot of them are making money. And then they are getting all these perks at the top level. But I think too, they work.
So that's what I'm saying.
Entertainment allowance.
We should look at
entertainment allowance.
Let's get into the newspapers. The Ghanaian Times newspaper, Awudome Cemetery falls apart. Deteriorating facility turned into criminal den. Oh, Awudome. I went to Awudome 3 Junior High School. We used to buy wachi right by the cemetery, my goodness.
that was
Junior high school days. Clote Kole MP advocates stricter measures against cyber crime. Have we found whoever said those derogatory, those, you know, unrepeated words about this woman? We've not found her yet. Teacher jailed 120 months for stealing bank's 238,550 Ghana cedis. Collaborates with Finance Minister for funding to complete Anomabo Fisheries College, the president said yesterday during his thank you tour to the central region. I want to start with the story of Awudome Cemetery that is deteriorating. So the Awudome Cemetery in Accra, a sacred and serene resting place for the dead, is gradually being turned into a dumping site with trash and filth littering the grounds and front view of the place. Skip to the part where it says the cemetery is also being used as a place of convenience by junkies and some individuals who operated businesses around the place. I think this falls under the jurisdiction of MMDCEs, right? And Town Development Council local government. What are they doing about these places? Those for the public cemeteries. We also have private cemeteries, which I think that I haven't seen any private cemetery that is completely out of shape yet, except the public ones, which goes to tell you how we treat public institutions in this country. But let me throw this to you, gentlemen. What do you make of it before I even go on to other stories?
Well, I think it's a very bad situation. If you go to the private cemeteries and Gethsemane and others, I mean, so well kept, somebody may make the excuse that to bury somebody at the public cemeteries, you may not have to pay as much as the private cemeteries. But then why do we pay taxes? Why do we elect people at the local government level? It is a very bad situation. I think these are some of the things that those in the local areas, when it comes to voting for people into our local administrations, we should look at all these things. Because you have people there who've been there for many years. They are not doing anything. But we keep on voting them into office. We have to look at all these things. And also, if the government feels they cannot run it effectively, they can even look at a public-private partnership. Because Awudome Cemetery has been going down for so many years. Osu occasionally is spruced up a bit, but I don't know why the neglect there. Maybe because
we don't think the cemeteries need our attention much. I mean, where was our call? They just put it in the ground then.
But one of the best ways of showing what your society is about how you treat the dead, the aged, the dead, and all that. And if your dead lie, I mean, it's sacred. You understand? These are loved ones gone past, and we imagine if we here were in such a place and it was, think about it.
We revere our ancestors. We don't. I'm not saying we worship them, but we hold them in high esteem. We talk about them fondly. So we do have to pay attention to their resting places.
Right.
Well, for me, I think what is happening to the cemetery there reflects a fundamental failure of our local government system. And the fact that real governance is done at the local level, not... Because when you go to the very advanced countries, the president's focus on foreign affair issues and the proper governance is done by the mayors, you understand? And for Ghana, unless and until we do proper local governance, then government can be for our benefit, having the benefit of the people, because we need to decentralize such that in a small community, as in proper, because that's where the governance is done. So in Ghana, sadly, and forgive me for bringing this up, you have vice presidents and presidents concern themselves with going to inaugurate toilets. You see, clearly, we've turned the whole governance thing upside down. We've turned the whole thing upside down. We have local governments. There's always a minister for local governments, and once again, we give power, but we don't work. I think, as a people, we need to reflect and take proper action. That proper action is to really, and Mama is talking about reset. One of the critical resets he can do, and he must do, is to strengthen the local government, the MMDCs. So we must have a real look at that whole structure. Because until we do that, then we can never achieve the purpose of democracy, which is not only government of the people, but government which is also by the people, and government which is for the people. So it's sad what is happening to Awudome Cemetery, but I bet you if you go across the length and breadth of the country, most of our cemeteries are like like that, and it's because we have a local governance system which is not functioning.
I wonder where the EPA comes in here, because they're talking about junkies using the place as a place of convenience, crime over there. Their story goes on. Some people even narrate how they were attacked and so on and so forth. Maybe,
but that has been a long-standing problem. It's not a today problem. People have been robbed there decades ago. I mean, it's a long-standing problem. I feel particularly bad because I have dear relatives there, and maybe not every grouping can afford. You know what I mean? There are these plush places where you have to pay certain huge sums of money, and then you get, and then every year you have to pay. Not everybody can afford that. So,
in fact, that's where I think Ghana isn't trying at all, because in every society you have just a few people who will make money. It's normal, you understand? But you should be able to use the power we give you to ensure that at least certain level of living, basics, is made available to majority of the citizens. And unfortunately, it's, like I'm saying, the presidents, the people we give power to, are not using those powers to deliver leadership that will ensure that it is to our benefit. Only a few people seem to have some quality of life, but it's because we have a local governance structure that is not working. In fact, we should be able to do decentralization to the extent that, like you're saying, the EP, it must be localized. Policing, it must be localized. Every... when they are part of us, when they are in the communities, EP, it is... So
that sanitation is used, we will not be facing the sanitation
at all.
Facing. Because locally, if you do X, Y, Z, they are at your doorstep.
You understand? But everything is up there, the EP boss. Like, we know we have an EP boss. We see the person on TV, we don't know where the person is. They don't work. They draw entertainment allowance, but they don't work.
I hope that the new EPA boss changes the narrative.
Yeah.
I've met her. I have read one-on-one for Women Power Politics, which you show later. And she seems like someone who has a lot of energy. You know, she speaks like she actually can do the work, especially on Galamsey, on the issue of Galamsey. We know she's already seized some excavators. I just hope that she changes the narrative.
But to be fair,
let me just add,
the two people who have the past one, Dr. Akurugu, from the MPP and the current one, Prof. I think if you look at them, you look at their credentials and what they were trying to do, you can see that both of them had very good intentions and they tried their best. But at the same time, the system has its own way of... So in the end...
Yeah, because if you have the right structure, strong system, then really the human being doesn't become too important. Important. The structure
it's like Trump, some of the things he wanted to do during his first term. The system grounded him.
Some district court in Seattle stopped him in his own issues.
Unfortunately, people don't see the options you have. They judge you based on the decisions you make. So intention, if it doesn't translate into actually betterment of our lives, I don't know. Just two stories, just the headlines, and then I'll come to you. Newmont funds construction of 7.5 million Ghana cedis multi-purpose sports court. Whoever is going to benefit from that, that would be great news. And something about the National Service Secretariat. National Service Authority goes cashless. The National Service Authority has announced its mandatory transition to a cashless payment system and effective immediately. The authority says all user agencies and stakeholders must make payment, including that 20% and 10% administrative charges through the digital platform. So if you fall in that category, know that the National Service Authority no longer takes cash. Gentlemen, let's do some other story. You can reflect on this briefly if you want, and then we can get into it.
I would start with the NSA goes cashless. I'm very happy about my good friend Felix Jimfi's appointment. He's my mate from Legon.
Okay.
And his nickname is even heavier than. So I'm not saying
the dash Biggie.
Biggie, I don't want to. His nickname is loaded.
Right.
It's loaded.
It's loaded. And very hardworking gentleman. I mean, from way back level 100. Very humble. I know that he's going to do amazing things there. And they going cashless is a testimony to the good work that he's going to do. And regarding Newmont 7.5 million sports complex, I think it's a good thing. Sports does a lot in stemming crime, building the youth. I went to Lagos for a funeral last year, and I was so impressed that there are flyovers. The big spaces under the flyovers, they've changed it into basketball courts, table tennis tables, and you have the street kids who otherwise would be getting up to mischief, doing something there. So I think Newmont has done a good job. And I hope that it will cater to the local areas. You know, we shouldn't neglect, this shouldn't be there waiting for All Africa Games or something. I mean, let the local populace also take part. If you cast your mind back to the election, recent election, CPP, we kept on saying that governance at your doorstep. Even translated, say, baby, I want to abano, eho na abai ewo. So we should localize as much as possible, and I'm sure that Newmont will open the doors to the.
Just a quick thought on the Newmont bit. This is where CSR becomes really, because we talk about Obuasi, Akwetia, and some of these places, and you go there and they are ghost towns. You can't. You should be able to tell that there's wealth here.
Exactly.
Wealth is generated from here, and the people are benefiting. Some communities across the world, when you go to mining areas, like the community is like a plush, parks and stuff. They live well, and we could easily replicate that. But brilliant idea. Last time I was in Lagos was, I think, over a year ago. Okay. I didn't see some of what you said.
I went there April, last year, April, yes.
Great. Then these are great initiatives. But you know, Nigeria is a powerhouse when it comes to basketball in Africa.
Yes.
Not just Africa, because at the Olympics, their women's team did incredible things, beating Australia and the rest. And in table tennis as well, together with Egypt and the rest. So no surprises that they are targeting those areas.
Sports is one way to take care of a lot of social issues.
Right. Abiadankwa, brief thoughts before we get to the news center.
I think Kubasha said everything except to add.
Don't refer to him as. Call him Because he's intentionally calling you Kobash.
I hear you. Kobash, or searching for Kobash, I said. But as in line with what you said, you know, I'm sure Newmont is doing what they are doing on the so-called social responsibility, and nice idea. But I think we can also help them by directing that social responsibility towards things that really benefit the locals in the area, not just about they doing something to represent something, because there seems to be something brewing in the mining communities. And case in point is what happened in Obuasi, where the people in the communities feel that the mining going on there is not benefiting them. So maybe if we can have a regime that will ensure that at least what is happening in Joburg, you know, Las Vegas was built after they discovered oil in Arizona, so they built something there. Just, you understand, that we can see real benefit. There can be something real, we can tangible in terms of the quality of life of the people. They're not just to. So as much as we commend them, most of the time they just do something to represent. So they get saying their social responsibility. So we both sports companies know there must be real attempt at improving the lives of the locals, so that the miners also benefit them.
It's interesting you mentioned Obuasi. I think maybe if those things had been done in the past, maybe we wouldn't have seen what we saw recently that took 9 years.
In fact, I actually did my service. I know Obuasi very well. So when you go to Obuasi, so there's some segregation there. There's some. So you're talking about this sports. So they have Virginia. So they have Obuasi Sports Club, top-notch facilities. Yeah. But initially it was meant for just the experts, and then the few Ghanaians who managed to get into the senior management position, and they have something for the locals, and the difference in quality. And so you go to Obuasi, you go to, let's say, Bruno Estate, but you're asking the estates, and it's like you're outside. If somebody takes a picture there and says you think the person is outside, and then you go to the township itself, and so the disparity.
That's the argument. I remember when that clash happened, one of our reporters was speaking to them, and he said, or something, you know, same thing that you're talking about. So you are benefiting, you're creating the wealth.
And you know the sad thing, because I actually worked in their safety, health and environmental department. No, I have a degree in renewable natural resource management. So every day we used to go and pick samples from all the water bodies across cyanide, arsenic, so, and also the life expectancy in Obuasi, if there was data. Because I recall that one thing that was striking when I went there was majority of the obituaries you see, I rarely saw any obituary where the person died was more than 50 years old. Wow. And that was back in 2003, 2004. I don't have any, but
you can imagine now.
Exactly. So the way the mining is done, because of the chemicals, is detrimental to in fact, you know, we used to talk about Obuasi and Kai, but there's scientific research that shows that because of the cyanide in the...
Are you serious?
There's some research. So at the end, because of how the gold is extracted, the people there will suffer. And yet,
so there must be some benefit for the
massive benefit for the.
It's a double whammy. We are not speaking against any mining entity. We're just putting it.
Okay, so I have the news center, and you have the cost of America's retreat. What a U.S. aid shutdown would mean for Ghana. You know, I've met a lot of colleague lawyers who work for American institutions, and things are suddenly hard for them. But I think it also means that we as Africa should take a look at ourselves. It's a time for an AU aid. Let's move away from US aid. What does America have that we do not have? It hurts. In the short term, I wish it had been a gradual, progressive thing. But it has happened. I don't know, maybe it may change. And I sympathize with all those who are going to face problems with the way Trump is running things. But he doesn't have two brains. You understand me? So I think he, in a way, as much as people say he's being brash and all that, he's also forcing us to look at what we have and what we can do if we come together. Because we keep on just splitting. Look at Rwanda and DRC and the Goma issue now. Yeah. What is AU doing about it? Yeah. You see, we sit down because we have our big brother, Father Christmas. At least we will get some fun. So our mind doesn't go there. But with this, AU, their mind will go to the Goma issue. Which front are we going to use to fight this?
Yeah.
So it's an unfolding situation.
But of course, there are UN structures as well that hopefully would help. But if your girlfriend or boyfriend leaves you, you don't say you'll kill yourself because of that. You move on with life.
Exactly. And we have another story. I fully paid all business debts, old banks, Afenyo market. And I saw some lists of companies, somehow 18 million. I think it's normal for companies to go for loans. You see, and people are trying to impute some corruption to the loan. I mean, what is corrupt about going for a loan by your company?
I think it was about repayment. Because if you look at the story, and I followed it a bit, he says, so this was an interview with GH1 TV. He acknowledged that his businesses, Square Logistics and Excel Courier, faced financial setbacks in the past, but successfully met all repayment obligations. Apparently, there was some time where some picture was created that he hadn't paid, and he says they litigated on that. Do you remember Ibrahim Mahama in this purported?
Yes.
And how many weeks ago, then all of a sudden the bank comes out to say, no, they are, that kind of, I don't know whether it's saying, but quoting him, he says, in the life of every business, you go through low moments. I started dealing with Access Bank and Intercontinental Bank in 2009. To end, they financed some trucks for my business. Along the line, we defaulted on loan repayments, and both of you understand what that means legally. And we even sued Access Bank on some issues. However, we resolved them and settled the matter legally. So it's here and there, but in the end, if the financial obligations were...
And the banks do that all the time. They can restructure your loan for you. Sometimes they write off debts, I mean, depending on how you have dealt with them.
Ghana banks write off debts.
Well, you know, and there's provision for bad debts in the banking.
Oh yeah, I mean that.
In the banking sector. So I don't think, I mean, he has done anything that people should be on him for. And
you know, maybe let me add that it's on a lighter note. Don't you think that this bullet had his name etched on it? Afenyo Markin has been waxing since the year started. Everywhere you turn, you see Alexander Afenyo Markin in the middle of something, saying something, causing something, you know.
And in the appointments committee, he's been putting people to the sword.
Don't you think that this is what happens? This sort of, you know, although we bent from that clarity you just gave, we know that nothing really happened, that, you know. But when you are all over the place, people find ways to shut you up, you know.
It's true.
I just think that this bullet had his name etched on it, but thanks for the clarity.
No,
I had to say that.
We go back to, if you come to equity, you must come with clean hands. So if you want to point out what other, and rightly so, you must also be...
Oh yeah,
because
exactly.
the Bible itself says it. As you observe, so are you observed. As you watch others, so are you watched. So if you want to talk and do, be sure your own backyard is... Yes,
He also says, confess your sins one to another.
Yes.
I mean, nobody is clean.
Anyway.
And another interesting story, Mahama proposes July 1 as National Day of Prayer and Thanksgiving. I'm very happy. I'm very happy about that, because even America, the great America, their motto is "In God We Trust." It's on their dollar bill. They don't play with God. Sometimes we think that the more secular you become, the more you progress. But these developed countries, they may not outwardly show their spiritual side, but they show it by following the principles that religion talks about. Philanthropy, even they helping us with aid is a form of religion in our hard times. So this day of National Day of Prayer and Thanksgiving, especially I like the Thanksgiving part. Things may not be perfect in Ghana, but what we have, a lot of countries would want to have it. That we have relative peace. I mean, we have a lot going for us.
But on that day, you know, it coincides with two things that remain. Republic Day and Senior Citizens Day. They remain, but now we are adding prayer and Thanksgiving.
That's the holiday or no holiday?
Oh, it will be a holiday.
It won't be a holiday.
I think it will be. It will be a holiday.
Reinstated.
I'm
sure.
That's what he said.
Hey, Ghana.
Yes. And then, because that is actually the real independence.
Oh, yeah.
That is,
No,
and then we also...
Okay.
Of course, Republic Day.
Yeah.
Well, we have Independence Day, but that also added to our independence.
Yeah.
And we have another story about Baba Sam debunks false accusations, fights for custody of daughter.
I've seen this story in the papers like throughout this week.
Yes.
And I guess she also had to forcefully come out and...
It's that one. It's a he says, she says. But as I always say, CPP being a champion of women's rights. If
I think let's give Apia Dankwa the chance to reflect on some of the stories that you just did. Okay. Any of these pique your interest? You want to talk about?
Afenyo will pick my interest. And I think you were spot on. But to be fair to Afenyo, he is a smart politician. You know, the way the politician thinks, all news is good news, whether bad or whether
no bad
publicity.
No bad publicity.
Still publicity.
Yeah, and you can clearly see his agenda. He's practically not the face of the new patriotic party. But having said that, the way at least Afenyo was 1 year behind us.
Yes,
he's been doing business for a long time, and you see, when you go into the life of every businessman, they're always debt, because it's essentially financing is either debt or equity. And for me, I was surprised this matter came up. But you are spot on because of the way. So then people would dig and bring issues which shouldn't really be too critical, because once the debts were procured genuinely, it could go bad, but really, how does that impact him as the minority?
So there are two quick sides to this. One, you know that if you've done business and not honored certain payments and all that, there are some positions even that you can't hold.
So that's
boards and certain. That is one angle to it. So let's not act as though it were
if you
okay
go
to do some of this.
If you go bankrupt.
If you go bankrupt, all of these are. But at the same time, to be fair to Afenyo Market, this is an old issue.
Yeah.
Per what he's saying.
Yeah.
It's a dried, dusted issue. And people have brought it up as though it were current. You get it? Yeah. But then it feeds back into what he said, that when you rattle a saber for a long time, people will look for another saber to rattle back at you.
But I'm sure he's in his room smiling all the way. Having me because he's in the news almost every day now. And everybody knows Afenyo. So, and I think what other, apart from the Afenyo issue,
there's Mahama
proposes, so you see this issue of...
by the way, as you go on, there's a planning committee for that as well. Sweetie Amachi, there's a planning committee on... I'm being mischievous here. So it says, President Mahama stated that a planning committee consisting of religious leaders would soon be established to oversee the arrangements for the proposed National Day of Prayer and Thanksgiving.
More biscuit than tea, More biscuit than tea. You see, there's something that need to stop in this country. As in, this issue of petty issues, Jubilee House, then after 4 years it becomes what's called Flagstaff House. 1st July holiday, after it becomes, listen, we need to, because we are one people, you understand? We need to agree on what our holidays are. We need to stop this issue of MPP about. So right now, suddenly Flagstaff House name will change to and understand that, listen, we are one people, and there must be clarity about what some petty issues are, about what our holidays are, what name we give to state monuments. Instead of it being, it's like, you see, we are sitting down, we are allowing the politicians, the partisan politicians, to split our country. It doesn't mean we have two Ghana, NPP Ghana, NDC Ghana. We have just one Ghana. And so that's impression. So as much as I agree with you that the July 1st, really, if you are talking about holidays, one of the most important days in the history of this country. It's certainly July 1st. It's certainly, so we should find a way of agreeing on what our important anniversary days are and stop that issue of MPP comes in, suddenly August 4th becomes
September 25th
becomes this and understand that, listen, we are building one country, not two countries. We refuse to become two countries. It's just one country, one Ghana.
What that even does is it digs some holes in our history. What happened?
What
is the importance of July 1st as a public holiday? and why do we need to be making changes? The same thing about the Flagstaff House, the Jubilee House, so that we know that this is Ghana. Our foundation is rooted in history, and that's the end of it. Not every administration comes and their own, interpretation of what is supposed to be, and just keep going down in this non-ending cycle.
Unnecessary.
But come to think of it, these are problems of the 2000s and the 2010s. SHS 3 or 4 years. It's a product of that. Jubilee House, Flagstaff House. It's a problem of all these, some of these pettiness and holiday today. Because prior to that, July holiday was a holiday.
And it was this. Everybody knew July 1st
Founders Day was Founders Day. Well, I don't know. From the 2000s and the 2010s, that is where we've had all of these.
The country is, we should say bluntly, we are in a nosedive. I'm telling you. Even if you take the quality of our politicians, or at least what I've started seeing the politics, let's say in the 90s, and in those days, the idea was that I'm going to take power to serve. You understand? Right now, it's not about service. We should say it bluntly. It's not about service. It's about how is my pocket.
And I was about to say, it's about how they come. So they come riding on, a lot of them come riding on money. And the danger is we don't even know who funds them. I mean, there have been people who have participated in primaries who have told me, and I'll never mention it.
You should. No, you should not.
But who have told me, I spent X millions of cedis. And I look at the person prior to coming into politics and what role they play, and these sums of money, it doesn't match up. But they have this kind of money. People on election day give out millions. Where do they get that kind of money from? And if they are giving out millions to delegates to vote for them,
imagine
when they come in, what do you think? We have serious problems.
No, we have serious problems.
The next paper, the Finder, the new Finder, I think.
Yes, this is the new Finder.
Okay, I think, industry watchers optimistic about BOG governor appointment. Then President Mahama pledges jobs, infrastructure and healthcare for Central Region. The Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection pledges to improve school feeding program. Let me see, page 2.
So which page are you trying to get
page
to?
2.
Page 2.
Cognitive. Thanks. So he says the appointment of Dr. Johnson Isiama as the new governor of the Bank of Ghana has been met with widespread optimism from industry players and financial experts. Mr. Isiama's wealth of experience in both the private and public sector has given many renewed hope. His leadership will chart a new course for the central bank, ensuring a more resilient financial ecosystem in Ghana. Some key figures in the financial and academic sectors have shared their thoughts on his appointments, lauding Dr. Isiama's credentials, potential employment countries, monetary policy, blah, 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 blah. So my view on, so personally, I don't know. So, but the position he's going to hold is really, really critical in the sense that, you see, when you define what an economy is essentially being the state of every country in terms of its production and consumption of goods and services and the supply of money. And I'm understanding that the role government plays in the economy is one in the fiscal policy and in the monetary policy. The fact that the head of the Bank of Ghana is essentially going to control one of the key arms of the role government plays, the monetary policy. And also when we reflect on one of the key poisons that impacted the economy the last time, we don't talk about it enough, but that the extent of the printing of money. Because that's poisoning. When you print, it's a no-no when it comes to, you don't print money into your system. The fact that the last regime, more than 60 billion cedis was spread into the economy, and that is the cause of the radical inflation we saw. So then what means that whoever you're going to appoint to hold, to wield that power in terms of and impact your economy must be somebody who is really up there. Yeah, understand? And I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I'm happy that industry watchers are optimistic, because also one of the key things that impact every economy is the trust and belief players in the economy have in people who hold key positions. I pray that when he comes, he'll deal with that printing of money issue. Is because that's what killed our economy the last time. That's about 60 billion Ghana cedi that was printed into the system You make it practically impossible for private sector to thrive. If you are printing, you are just printing money into the system.
I'm curious to know who these industry watchers are, because not everyone is as excited about his position and even assuming office. I think we got wind beginning of this week that Minority Leader Alexander Penyomake was saying that he shouldn't assume work yet because the National Council, what's it called? Council of State have not yet approved his nomination. So there were so many.
So it comes back to what we're talking about. So don't even play politics with something as critical as this. But you see, one of the key, it was a former MD of Cowbank, and that's a key player. Obviously, somebody who former MD of Cowbank will certainly understand. So there is a former MD of Cowbank, and a respected figure in Ghana's banking industry, Frank Edu, is very optimistic. Okay. So you see, you can play your politics. But there are some areas you don't play politics because they deal with the bread and butter issues over society. So when it comes to these issues, I'd rather listen to somebody like Frank Edu than the minority leader whose focus is to play politics once again with the so you are politicians. Play your politics. But play your politics at the right time, not with critical issues like who becomes the what's called the governor. Because what the power he's holding is really critical. Because if you think that, like I'm saying, the role government plays in every economy is either in the fiscal policy or in the monetary. The fiscal policy is held by the president through his finance minister. The Bank of Ghana governor deals with the monetary policy. Right. So it's not something that you should be playing petty politics with.
But just to be clear, he didn't raise any concerns about the competencies of this man. Just that the timing, whether or not he should assume office.
And the fact that he was facing some trial. Meanwhile, in Ghana, our principle is that you are innocent until proven so. That's the principle.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, Dr. Richmond Etiahene threw this matter away. He said it was a non-issue. But at the same time, as students of the law, you always want to ensure that the right things, just as we said with the SIC issue. Dr. Etiahene thinks it is a non-issue, but at the same time, are the right structures being followed? And could we do better? I always see these things as tests to how the system runs and how it ought to run, so that in the end, okay, this has been done in the past, but can we tweak it further and ensure that everything is, so that you don't have problems? So
I think that last thing I want to talk about is the President Obama pledges jobs, infrastructure, and healthcare for Central Region. And I think that pledge is to the whole country. And it's at the core of the 24-hour, I wanted to make it 25, the 24-hour economy. Fantastic idea, fantastic vision. I think, once again, it's right. He just has taught us that countries who have built their economies and have created jobs have done that on the back of one, industrialization, agribusiness, but also deliberately strengthen their small and medium scale enterprises. And I always want to make reference to history. Because, you see, one thing history taught us, as in the period between 1929 and 1945, right after the Great Depression, where the economies of Western Europe and America was destroyed, came the Second World War. So for close to 15 years, the world economy died. How did they resurrect it? In America, President Eisenhower resurrected it by the creation of the Small Business Act, which created the small business agencies. So in America, they deliberately, and they've decentralized it. So when you go to every district, they always have a small business agency. And what they do is that they identify, or you can work there. So when they build your business up in terms of your corporate structures, your corporate governance structures, and also actually give you money. Because money is the air that every business... So President Mama, nice idea, but it's right that you can only do this if you deliberately build your SMEs. So by now, I want to see, because you have a situation where I think over 90% of all the businesses in this country are informal. The government do not even know them. So we have to find a way of formalizing them. We have to find a way of identifying and building the SMEs up. We have to find a way of using the monetary policy or fiscal policy to give concessionary loans to these SMEs. Once we do that, then the jobs and all these things will come naturally.
Let me quickly browse through the Ghanaian publisher. I fully paid all business debt. Afinyo Markin says that we've looked at it. I won't run away. Baba Sam replies, ex-partner. Yes, your daughter.
Who is Baba Sam?
There she is. A handsome couple. The man is a businessman of sorts, from what I hear, and a tussle, a child in between, and the fear that she will travel, and maybe, per claims, some groups in the police being used to secure a warrant for her arrest, and then claims that, and now the court has quashed that, and all of that. And she says, I won't run away. You should get into the details. KGL honors Otumfuo with mental health facility, and Mahama proposes July 1 as National Prayer Day. Yakubu Tali resigns as ADB MD. I'm not getting into the stories. I just saw other headlines. Chaos probe committee to resume hearing today. And I'm talking about the one in Parliament. No government funds used for Hajj fare reduction. So they say the 13K that has been shaved off, there were no government funds used. So the figure it was at initially, no. Why was it pegged there?
But they should tell us the fund. What fund? We want to know.
Gentlemen, this is where we are going to have to show it out.
Yeah, that's what.
And look forward to my blunt thoughts later on the show, not immediately after our big stories, because I'll be serving you some of the very things you need to know, whether it's about the committees that have been set up under John Mahama and what they are doing and other critical matters. You want to stay for that after the big stories. But for now,
yes, those who join us for the conversation, Andrew Appiah Danquah is spokesperson for Movements for Change, and Kwame Nkrumah Bosio is General Secretary for the CPP. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining
I must add,
and
our viewers can't see, but I love your sneakers.
Wow.
are they easy?
Should I describe?
No.
But please stay.
No.
Just a second. Please stay for sports, because we have a special package for you. Haruna Mumbarak brings you the inspiring story of Ghana's first female world champion in boxing. I'm talking about Abigail Korte. Please enjoy that story.